Hey y'all, I'm James Wright. Welcome to my shop. And today we're going to look at the most important skill you can possibly learn in hand tools. How to saw straight, even when your line isn't. When you first get into hand tool woodworking, there are 1,000 skills to learn, but by far the most important is how to follow a line with a saw. Now, that line may just be across the board, or it could be a cut that runs along the board. But for some reason, as soon as I draw the line in this direction, I've scared a bunch of people. For a lot of people, following a straight line is a bit daunting, especially when it's a long line and you need to rip all the way down the board. But how in the world am I supposed to hit the line when it's on an angle too? And part of this consternation comes from the background of power tools. If I want to cut across the board, I put it in my miter saw and I cut it across the board. If I want to rip the board down, I put it on a table saw, I slide my fence in and I rip the board down. But as soon as I want to cut an angle, then things become a little bit tricky. Now, yes, if it is a straight angle across thinner stock, I can use a miter saw, and if it's bigger stock, I could use a sliding miter saw. But if I need to cut an angle across a panel, well, then I've got to get jiggy with it. Or I can get out the circular saw or the jigsaw and just know that my line's not going to be dead accurate and I'm going to have to come back and clean it up. So how exactly do we do it with a hand-powered saw? First up, let's cut this line across the board. I'm going to put it in my vise here and lock that down a bit. Then I can pinch the corner of the board and let my saw slide on my thumbnail. I can get it started, and then I'm cutting straight down. When I cut straight down the board, I want to make sure my saw is in line with my arm, elbow, shoulder, and then all of this can just swing freely from the shoulder. And then I can cut straight down my line. It's the exact same thing with ripping, though sometimes I'm going to do that at my saw bench. But if I want to cut an angle on the board, well then that means I'm no longer perfectly in line. I'm going to be doing one of these things, right? And cutting at a weird angle, that's got to be kind of funky and harder to do, right? If your line is at an angle, all you have to do is rotate the board. Now it's the exact same cut. In this case, the only trick is starting the saw, because the saw naturally wants to drift down the board. But I'm going to start it the exact same way. I'm going to put my thumb on here, and my thumbnail will be there to guide the saw. All I need to do is balance it between my ring finger and the back of my hand, and now my back of my hand can lift the saw up, taking the weight off the teeth, so that the teeth just scratch along the surface. Once it's established, there's no difference to it at all. I just cut right down along my line. With hand tools, I generally don't care about what angle I'm cutting at. As long as I can see the line and I can actually get the saw to it, then I can cut it. Because it all comes down to that same skill of the saw running in line with your arm up to your shoulder so that you can get that nice, clean, smooth stroke. Even when I'm cutting at the saw bench, it's the same thing. My saw is in line with my arm, my elbow, up my shoulder, and I let the whole thing swing. It's the same movement whether I'm leaning over at the saw bench or I'm vertical at the bench itself. It's that same movement from the shoulder to the saw. And as long as I can get that body mechanic down and my saw is set up right, it will track right along that line. And here's the point where we as woodworking YouTubers tend to go astray. It is just that simple, as the saw needs to be in line with everything and run along that line. But any tiny little twitch of the wrist, any tiny little twitch of the elbow, the shoulder, your body getting in and out of the way will cause the saw to go offline. And yes, I might be able to get a few strokes that way, and over time I will be able to train my body to maintain that way, but that takes time. I can know the body mechanics required to do this, but to actually make it happen requires practice. I would love to tell you it's an easy skill that anyone can pick up instantly. But the reality is, some people will pick it up really quickly, and some people will take a long time to get there. Everyone's a little bit different. Now, I can teach you things, and once you understand that, and you put the camera in line with it, you can see your arm and exactly where you're going, you might be able to pick it up a little bit faster. And knowing the knowledge will make you learn it quicker. But it won't make you master the skill. And that means you're going to have a lot of cuts where you come at it from one side, and you go off the line. Well, then you turn the board around, you come at it from the other side, and you go off the line again, and you get it close enough so you can break it off, plane it, and clean it. And yeah, you're gonna run into that, even when you know how to do it. And even if you've been doing it for a while, every now and then some line will go like, whoops, ooh, I didn't mean to do that. It's a skill you've got to learn, you've got to practice, and you've got to keep going at. And the really frustrating part is it's kind of like perfection. You can go towards it all your life, but you will never get there. Now your name might be Frank Klaus and you can cut a dovetail with a single stroke of the bow saw, but you're still going to be learning and growing until the very last day you pick up a saw. And that same thing goes for every single tool on this wall. They all require a skill, and the only way you can pick up that skill is to do it. Don't get me wrong, YouTube can help, and it's a good thing to watch videos and read books and even take classes where you can have in-person instruction to help and guide you along the way. But even with all of that, you're still going to have to mess up. You're still going to have to go off the line. And so every time you're cutting a board down a long rip and it's not hitting your line exactly the way you see it on YouTube, realize that you're still learning. And we're all learning. We're all occasionally going to hit some line and go, where did that come from? Perfection is a direction, not a location. Now that doesn't mean you shouldn't strive for it and do your absolute best, but don't get frustrated when things don't go exactly like you expect them to. Just realize you learned something. Hopefully. Next time, do it again, and you might get a better look. A wise person watches others and learns from their mistakes. That's YouTube. A normal person makes mistakes and learns from them. That's all of us. But the fools out there, they just never learn. So on that note, if you can't be wise, at least try to be normal. I don't know about you, but I love it when a good saw video turns into a philosophy lesson. And if you like that, then please let me know down below, because it does help with the channel. Anytime you like, comment, share, subscribe, okay, you know all that. But I want to say one extra thing. All those names over there, those are people on Patreon. I talked about that before, but we're actually doing a few things. We're going to be doing a giveaway on a couple shirts, and we're actually going to be doing monthly free giveaways to plans. So if you join on Patreon, you'll get regular plans. So if you want to find out more about that, links down below, and you know how this works. So thank you to everyone. I think they'll do it for now. And until next time, have a wonderful day. It's lessons like this that get you set for the future. That joke had a bit of teeth in it, didn't it?